And what we're about tonight is focusing our goals, and you will continue to focus. But I wanted to celebrate with you the progress you have made, because I know when the task is huge, sometimes you don't notice your own progress. You don't give yourselves enough credit. And I just want you to know that at least out there in the community where I reside and the people I know, I have just been delighted with your work and wish you well as you continue. I know, like bond issues, everybody wants something, and when the pie gets too big, nobody can afford it. So I understand that that gets to be a challenge, and that's why the focus symbol is here. It's meant to compliment you and inspire you at the same time. You're welcome. Metaphoric minds, you know, that's what we are. Okay, now, I live to serve you. Shall we take each one individually and see if perhaps you have any suggestions? And then after we do each one individually, we can look at adding any that you might think were missed. Okay? Okay, the first one, A, is parents and community members are involved in empowering students to maximize their individual educational experience to ensure their role as lifelong learners. What do you think?
I think it really still is very reflective of what we are all about. Director Lung, I'm going to kind of lean on you a little bit because I know you've done some work with our parent engagement policy that we're looking at tonight. So I guess I would hope that you would have that filter to make sure we're aligned, you know, in some ways, not that we have to recite the policy, but that we're aligned with the intent of that policy as well in terms of some of the hopes for the outcomes. So other comments about that first one?
Cool. Okay, let's move on to B. Meaningful relationships have been established with parents, family, and community members as partners to benefit each learner.
All I said was that I like that, that I don't think it's a whole lot different from the first one, but I mean, there's a little nuance, so.
What do you see, that is a good question, what do you see as different? So that one talks about relationships,
and one talks about empowering students. It seems like I'm capturing the biggest difference in terms of those two.
Well, I think the first one speaks a little bit to choice, since we do have multiple avenues for education here. So I think that A speaks to that it empowers students to maximize their individual experience. That means they may want to go to a high school across the way or a night school or a charter school. So I think it addresses that in A, but B is about building those relationships. My biggest concern is with the tense of it, have been established versus will be established. Are established. It seems like in other ones we've been a little more. Oh, I see, have been in other areas. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were keeping in the same tense. So. Okay, we're just. I'll reiterate what you just said. That it is in keeping with. If we go back to outstanding educator goals number 2, we use the have been. So just want to make sure it's all making sense together, since it will be a living document, hopefully. Okay, thank you.
And in B, I would like to add the work school in there. So with parents, school, family, and community member. School is an important component. I don't want to leave it out from there.
Anything else on number 2? Okie dokie. Number 3. Input and collaboration are sought from parents, businesses, and community in the composition of committees throughout the district and the schools. My only question is, you did include businesses in that one. Did you mean to exclude them in the first 2? Or if not, what the rationale for number 3 is? What? Yes, ma'am.
So I would say the first 2 are more about human interaction, and I think that businesses that we do want to collaborate with our business shouldn't be an everyday thing. I think that should be between parents and the school and the community there, like we have the SACs and things. Businesses come in and do a different type of partnership, so I'm okay with leaving it at C, but if anybody else has a different thought on that, I'm open to that as well.
So I understand what you're saying, and I just wanted to bring this up now because it might fit in with that one. When I looked back at what some of our building administrators had told us, they wanted us to include things about providing opportunities for service and positive change. And so I kind of tried to write something, and here's what I came up with. Collaborate with community, and then I'm not sure if you want to extend it. What I said was collaborate with community, business, government, and organizational leaders to provide opportunities for students to create positive change and provide service in our communities. So it's kind of similar, I feel like, to that one, but it is more about service. And
Well, I like that you're calling it out because certainly, Director Graziano and I attending, I've got a lapel. Attending our partnership, collaboration campus partnership, which really speaks to exactly what you're saying, is that we really want to make sure that we're making those partnerships for the benefit of our kids in terms of career paths that they choose. So I like what you said and really opening it up to even more than just businesses, but also government entities as well. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And organizations.
Yeah.
yeah, and I had that, and not just for not just for career opportunities, but for service opportunities.
Yes.
And the way they had phrased it was for opportunities for positive change, like participation in the community in some way.
Yeah. I'll just write it down.
So Krista will just hand it in.
I'll hand it in. How about that?
I had a question about C. Input and collaboration are sought from parents, business, and community in the composition of committees throughout the district and schools. So my question is, do we want to identify that's the only way that we're seeking input and collaboration, or should we leave that part out? Because it just identifies just the composition of committees versus surveys or conversations. Or
Good question, yeah. Do you think, does Krista's statement, does that encompass everything? I mean, would that be a good replacement statement for C as opposed to us trying to wordsmith C, maybe just replacing Director Holtzman's statement? Yeah, if you would read that again.
Okay, I'll read it one more time. Collaborate with community, business, government, and organizational leaders to provide opportunities for students to create positive change and provide service in our communities.
It really does leave off more of the work like committees. It really speaks more to service and partnerships.
Well, I think like Christina was saying, it just doesn't describe the how you do it. It could be through a committee, it could be through, it could just be through two people. So I would I would agree that I would rather leave it broad and not define it as committees.
And I'm noticing we say parents, but we don't say guardians. Not all of our children have parents, so I'd like to add guardians anywhere it says parents. I'd also like to say parent and guardian.
Parent/guardian.
Parent/guardian, yeah. And honor those folks.
You can also use the word including. That means it's not limited to those things.
Let me just make sure I'm understanding. So are we looking at Krista or Director Holtzman's statement as kind of our catch-all for that C, as opposed
Replacing C?
just replacing C, or did we feel like there was something missing?
Do you want to read it, or do you want me to? Because you probably can't read my handwriting.
Or Mike?
Collaborate with community, business, government, and organizational leaders to provide opportunities for students to create positive change and provide service in our communities.
And again, I think, as you alluded to earlier, the C kind of gets into the how when it calls out committees, which I think is really the only thing I see that's different in that statement than the statement you have read a couple times now. And I think that's wise for us to keep it broad, so that, as you said, Julie, that it's including, or it's all encompassing, as opposed to calling out specifics. And then our superintendent can kind of help with the interpretation of what the hows would look like for that particular indicator.
Any other additions? Suggestions?
Mr. Knight, I know Dr. Holtzman kind of captured some of the principal's thoughts. Anything else that you think you heard? I know it's been a while, but that you heard our principals talk about in this category that you felt like needs to be highlighted as well. I know you're not feeling well, so I want to just acknowledge that you're you're hanging in there. But the microphone.
I think Director Holtzman revision gets us, to where we need to be. There was some concern. I think anytime we're talking about input, as leaders, you're worried about, is it sought or is it acted upon, or what is it? So from a high level board in, just starting with collaboration versus identifying what that looks like is going to sit much better with leaders, in terms of probably working with Dr. Tucker and defining in our strategic plan how we specifically go about asking our leaders to collaborate with the business community, with organizations, and with other entities. So
Hesitance about the word input is what I'm hearing, Mr.
no,
Knight?
in the original one, where we have input and collaboration, or sought doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, right? I could say, well, I asked, and I'm still going to do what I want to do. I think the way it's rewritten, where the expectation is that we're collaborating with various stakeholders, that allows Dr. Tucker and staff in the strategic plan to really outline how we expect those collaboration opportunities to happen in our schools, with input from our leaders. So I think that helped.
I 100% agree with what he said, and Dr. Holtzman's revisions is actually better. I think in the past few years, our school district, the issue is that we do not empower parents enough. In fact, the parents' voice has been silent in the past few years. So I think it's important we have a strong policy in here to make sure that the parents' voice is no longer being silent or intentionally being minimized. After all, is their student that we are teaching, and parent is an important part of how we make sure that their kid is successful and their inputs are important. So I appreciate the revisions. It makes it stronger. It makes it more relevant and more important to hear the parents' voice. Thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
So I didn't like write anything to include this, but I noticed it. Some of the principals, and I'm not sure how many, wanted to make sure, and I feel like it's just sort of in here that it's expected, but I just wanted to bring it out that some of them thought that we really needed to make sure that we have effective communication with everyone, parents, community, in whatever language is most comfortable for them. So like our English language learners, make sure that we're communicating effectively with those parents. And I feel like it's inherent in our expectations and maybe covered by one of the other goals, perhaps like culture and climate, but I just wanted to bring it up so you could consider it.
Maybe Julie, so kind of what I'm hearing is maybe a separate statement that talks about the communication channels are accessible by all. Something along those lines, that we really value the fact that we want all our parents, regardless of what language they speak, regardless of whether they have internet access, that they have accessibility to the communication that we push out about our district. I think that's probably a really good thing for us to focus on, because communication is critical, and that would make sense to put it in that collaborative category.
I was going to suggest that to you. Sorry. It's okay.
Are you okay? Sorry for
Say
that.
amen to that.
Okay. All right. Amen.
I do want to point out the word collaboration and maybe add respectful collaboration, because I don't want to give anybody the idea that they can make demands of the district and expect them to be fulfilled. This is a respectful, collaborative, kind of a give and take, versus the demands were either coming from the top down, or now it's going to be a role reversal where we do a pendulum swing. I just want to make sure we're not causing any unintended consequences down the line, that the expectation is, oh, well, now we get to make demands. That respectful collaboration means that we're working together. It's not going to be, this is what I want and I want it now, and if you don't give it to me, we're going to have a problem, because we've got to work on that. So
Could we make that mutually respectful?
I just think that sounds redundant. I think that sounds redundant. That's why I would
Okay.
be like define and collaborate. I think it's
So I need to know what you think.
Adding the word respectful sounds redundant?
I mean, I guess to me, I hear collaborate. I think it'd be inherent, but it could.
So I see it as just too wordy, but because I look at the word collaborate and I think it represents those words, to partner together, to team together.
So the assumption is collaboration is always positive, or as opposed to negative collaboration.
Yes, the way I guess the way I see the word and the way I would use it here, but.
And Sean, I know we'll pass it down to.
Hopefully I'm not reading Director Chancho Shore's mind here, but there's been a lot of talk and emphasis from the board and from members of our various committees about being respectful and being kind. And anytime we have an opportunity to emphasize that, I think we should emphasize being respectful and kind and being collaborative.
Thank you for reading a little bit of my mind. The other piece that I have is there a place to put the school community is a center of, and I'm not articulating it in the way that I would love it to say, but how the school is the center of the community, or people attend the school, people see the school as a part of the center of the community. And I know I'm not articulating it in a way that we would write it, but is there a way you guys can say that?
So somehow to show that community, that the school is an enhancement to the surrounding community, that it's really the focal point oftentimes. Where, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you cheated, Director Chancha Shores, right off of that.
Did I say exactly that?
I'm saying they said amen.
Amen.
So you would advocate, Director Chancha Shores, for maybe a whole another B, which aligns with all our other ones.
The NASB one that they couldn't hear says, and that's National Association of School Boards. We were looking at their goals as well. Their number one is ensure that all schools are the center of the community learning locally. And so that's the essence of what you were saying.
So two things, Julie, that I'm hearing capture not only that, but also Dr. Tucker and Director Lemieux have said we want somewhere in there to talk about respectful interactions. You know, and it may not be around the word collaboration, but somehow, whether that's meaningful in the meaningful relationship one, but something that highlights that's who we are. All right.
Well, I just have questions. Is this supposed to be fall under collaborative parents and community relationships, or should that be fall under safe, positive culture and climate? Ensure that all schools are center of community learning locally.
I think the suggestion is to make it a separate bullet altogether, Director Long, that we call that one out. To ensure that all schools are the center of community learning it's a separate indicator.
So a D over there.
Yes.
D in section 4.
Yeah, D in section 4.
Some people would say redundancy, but some people would also say it just addresses a different issue with some of the same solutions, and that's not a bad thing.
Well, I think it opens up our schools to, not that they're already not,
But open up to the entire community, like of a centerpiece for whether you're watching a game or going to a play or listening to an orchestra. I think it just welcomes everyone as, you know, come to our schools. There's great things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also want to make a changes. So whenever we refer parent, should we change it to parents and family? Because, you know, just to make sure that it's synced with the Colorado state law and then the CDE, because they all mention about parents and family. The policy that we have from the state is actually called parents and family engagement policy. So I just don't know whether it will be appropriate to substitute parents with parents and family.
Under it looks like we do have family in B, but you're right. I mean, we probably should include those in the other.
Or should we say parents/guardian and family, just to include the one that's not parent?
Sure, sure.
I heard you. Anything else?
So Dr. Tucker, as a new set of eyes, I would just ask you, as you read through those, is there anything that's missing that you feel like ought to be highlighted in terms of our collaborative relations with parents and community?
I think this is an excellent early draft, and bringing in an extra set of eyes to help us wordsmith this is great. We'll also have an opportunity to step back and look at some of the changes. But I'm very impressed with this first draft. I'm glad we're emphasizing communication, collaboration, being respectful, and being kind. I read somewhere that kind is the new cool. Must have been on one of my children's T-shirt or something, but kindness is the new cool.
That's great. It's a great. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
The only other feels a little bit missing, and maybe it's just redundant, is the partnership piece with parents and schools. I know that we say partners in B. Is there a way we could call it out more specifically with parents as partners in the learning of their students, of our students? it might be called out enough. I want to say it more somehow.
So Ted was one.
Partnered in empowering students. Parents and community members are partnered in empowering students to maximize their individual education experience to ensure their roles as lifelong learners.
Instead of involved and partnered.
Do you guys like that?
She
So
said
number
that
one,
the word involved as partner. So
parents
parent community members are partnering in empowering students or something along those lines, just to highlight that word again, a partner. But something along those lines of calling that out so that it really looks like a two-way kind of relationship as opposed to just the parents. Right now it reads as the parents are empowering, which we want to show that there's a partnership that occurs to make that empowerment happen, I think. Is that
so the only piece that stands out for me, so parents and community members are involved, but parents as partners. So community members, I guess, are also partners, but really I'm trying to emphasize the parent partnership.
Julie, does that make sense? I know you'll do some messing around with. Right. So looking at if we can, emphasize that more. Dr. Graziano, were you?
No, I was just going to say I like partnered way more than involved.
Anything else for Julie? Julie, anything else that you think we need to highlight or?
Actually, it was interesting.
Hi. At first was thinking maybe there was a piece about communication. We've got them coming to us to partner, etc. And I wasn't sure we had enough clarity about us going to them, but I really think you've addressed that maybe tonight better. Does anybody have any thoughts about that?
And I think that we called out that whole communication bullet, and I think that could be included in there. Is what do we do to reach out? How do we, because I think you're exactly right. We don't want it just to be a one-way kind of streak. So I think we advocated for an additional D that talked about communication, making it accessible to all parents regardless of language, but maybe also you could include in there about what do we do as a district to make sure that we're reaching out where people are going to receive that information best.
So this number one would actually
The E, because we already had another
we'd already have a
D.
D in communication.
Got it. So, which is nice because I think we have E on most of our other ones too.
Right.
So we're looking kind of like intentional and all that kind of stuff. That's great. Yeah.
So communications goes where? E. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure.
Julie and Dr. Tucker had some comments.
Yeah. I was just thinking about partners after I heard some comments by Director Chancho Shore and also by Ted. Do we need to be specific when we talk about partners? Again, when we look at our business partners and higher ed partners, do we need to spell it out? When you look at our requests, our needs to expand partnerships with higher ed, to offer more opportunities for our students at the secondary level, to build greater business collaborations with the myriad of businesses that we have here, and to provide internship and externship opportunities for students. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I will make every effort to include the thoughts that you've shared tonight.
Or nonprofit.
Keeping it more general, more broad again. So just to our public, that I know I can see in my peripheral vision Mr. Colley trying to get a word in. However, what I will say is that just to the public, our next step really is for Julie to draft for a first reading for us to consider at our next board meeting, and that's certainly the opportunity where we would love for community to weigh in and email us your thoughts as you see those drafts come out, because there will be an opportunity really for 2 readings before we officially approve it. So that would be the time for public. And we would encourage you to jump in and give us some input. All right, Ms. Fairley, anything else for the good of the group? Thank you for that benediction. All right, so we're adjourning the work session. We will reconvene at 6 o'clock.